Welcome back to Access Anime. My name is Henshin Ikeda, and today I'll be doing a walkthrough and review of Ixion Saga Dimension Transfer Episode 11. Now, if you remember from last episode, it was mostly a filler about Kon and how he was missing his home, as well as video games and anime, and you name it. Now, we are taken to a little inn, and apparently Mirandel, Icarlet, and Sanglion notice all these drawbacks that Kon is now facing, and they're trying to make him happy and please him in general, trying to recreate whatever made him happy in his world in the present world. Instead of bringing him snacks and junk food from his world, they bring him bugs and whatnot, which disgusts him. And again, on and off throughout this episode, they're trying to help Kon cope with him missing his house and his home life, everything. And the shit hits the fan quite often. But again, that was last episode, and this is a new episode, so let's dive right in. And again, I'll hold my final thoughts on my rating at the end of the clip, so stay tuned. But let's dive right in. Now, we open up this episode not exactly where we left off. In fact, we open up with where we were 2 episodes ago, seeing Elma Flora giving Dukakis the sacred sword of Calibre. So that's definitely interesting. Now, moving on past the opening, we actually see Kon, Mirandel, Icarlet, Sanglion. It looks like they're trying to seek refuge or shelter for the night at this castle/ruin, and we do see Kon see his reflection in a mirror, and it kind of freaks him out. But again, that's where we leave off with this little castle/ruin. Moving on into the morning, we're taken to a different scene. Now we see Mirandel, everyone just leaving the castle/ruin, and they're walking down, and you see Kon complaining about everything, more or less. And out of nowhere, they're attacked by a chariot, or in this case, a tank. So we see Dukakis attacking everyone from the distance with his chariot, or in this case, a tank. And it was they caught them off guard. I mean, I didn't even see this coming right away. Off the bat, we see them getting attacked. Wow. That's all I can say. Dukakis is stepping up his game. Moving on. Now, we do see Kon, and in the next scene, we actually see him pull out his Elma gear. So he's ready to go regardless of the situation. So he actually has his Elma gear out, and he's ready to go. Now, Sanglion is also in tune with, Kon in general, so they're ready to go. And Kon says, well, we're always good at running away, let's run. And it looks like that's what they were about to do, and then we see Icarlet step up to bat and take control of this situation. And no, surprisingly, they're all working together very well. This is the first episode I can say within the Ixion Saga Dimension Transfer series that you can actually say Icarlet and everyone else are working together as one. I just thought I'd point that out, but sorry, I digress. Moving on. Now, we do find out Icarlet actually wants them to continue ahead and not retreat. So, definitely this was different. We haven't seen them take anyone on besides Dukakis in the past, and that's mostly just Kon. So, I'm interested to see where this is going to take us. Now, in the next scene, we do see Varation versus Sanglion. Now, what's interesting when we see Varation versus Sanglion is that the buildup was that they were going to fight. But we don't get to see that at all, surprisingly. Yeah, we don't even get to see them fight. I mean, they clash swords, but that was it. Because then we're taken to a different scene with Kon. Now, he's blowing away all these soldiers from Dukakis' army. And it's with his Elma gear in general. And they're just literally weak as hell once you see, Kon let loose all this Elma energy from his Elma gear. So, definitely worth watching. Then we are taken to a different scene. Now, we see Dukakis. And he is definitely focused on Kon. And he even says he can't wait to fight, Kon in general. So he's psyched, he's powered up. And then Mirandel jumps right in, and she attacks him, appears out of nowhere and just attacks Dukakis and catches him off guard. But it gets better, because now we see one of Dukakis' subordinates attack Mirandel out of nowhere. And she was very shocked. In fact, Mirandel points out something is different about Dukakis. He's working with his men more, his fighting habits change, so something is off. Now, we are taken to a different scene, more like a shocker scene in my opinion. It's because we find out all of Dukakis' subordinates, the main ones, Leon, Varation, just the main subordinates that we've been seeing in the past few episodes, they have the DDoS gear. Now, if you don't know what the DDoS gear is, it's kind of like the Elma gear in general, but it's not as strong, but it's kind of similar in power, but, not that strong, of course, but enough to take on Kon in general if and when, that happens, of course. So now we know what the DDoS gear kind of is. It looks like normal weapons in my opinion, but the power is definitely equivalent of Elma gear. Now, moving on past that, we get to see Kon versus Dukakis. This is what we've been waiting for. I can't believe we actually get to see this, finally. Yet again, there's no more BS, no nothing. We get to see them one-on-one. Elma gear versus Elma gear. Equal playing fields, finally. and the powers cancel each other out. You're like, what? We don't even get to see a fight. They clash swords and that was it. The ground underneath them explodes. We see Icarlet and everyone else fall to the ground while Dukakis' men, you know, they're unfazed by this. They're on the other side. However, Mirandel doesn't fall with them. She's left behind. At the same time, we see Leon, which is part of Dukakis' soldiers. Leon in general, he falls with Kon and everyone else. So definitely a little twist there. I didn't see that coming. Of course, we are taken to a different scene. But before I get to that different scene, I want to point out, however, we do not see Leon fall. But it is mentioned he saves the princess. So what is that about? Huh? I don't know. But we see Leon save Icarlet. I don't know. I thought he was the bad guy. But I guess, you know, he's very chivalrous. He's a gentleman. Kind of figures he'd probably save her regardless. But moving on, of course, to the next scene. Now we do see Dukakis, and he has Mirandel hostage. And I thought it was an hilarious scene. I can't believe we actually get the pleasure in seeing this scene. I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, you do see Mirandel. She's definitely turned on by Dukakis. I can't explain it, but it was funny. She thought she was going to be tortured, I guess, sexually or something. So it was definitely hilarious and worth watching. Now Dukakis makes the wrong move by saying we're going to probe and prod you. I'm like, what? Why would you tell Mirandel this? I mean, seriously, now you're just, you know, more wood for the fire. I mean, I can't believe you actually said that. That's all I can say. And Mirandel is just very delusional right now, and she's coming up with all of these random false images of what Dukakis and his men are going to do to her. It's like, really? And Mirandel's actually a guy, and they don't even know this, so it's even better. Ah, I just love watching this scene. But of course, we find out Mirandel's just playing dumb in general. So this is all just a hoax. She's trying to fool Dukakis just to buy Kon and everyone else more time. At the same time, we do see Dukakis trying to get information out of her, but it's not going to go anywhere. Now we are taken to a different scene. Now we are taken back to Leon. Yeah, he's been tied up by Kon, and it looks like a sushi wrap. I just thought I'd point that out. Very funny in my opinion. Now Icarlet does not want to be nice to Leon, so she starts stepping on him, literally. And that kind of backfires at Icarlet because you know what? Leon loves it. He's a masochist. At least that's what she says, or one of the characters says. And Leon's just enjoying it. He's turned on by this. And you're like, what? Really? And Icarlet's like, oh, I can't believe, like, this just sickens me. I can't believe the first time ever that I can't believe I'm not enjoying stepping on someone. Feel bad for Icarlet? No, not really. I just thought it was a funny scene. Moving on, now we are taken to a different scene back to Mirandel. Now we see Mirandel and Dukakis, and it looks like they're both on the same page of being turned on, kind of. It looks like Dukakis was going to make a pass on Mirandel. And then we see, I guess all of his subordinates say she's a lust monster. A lust monster, really? And then of course we see Varation tell Dukakis, I'm going to tell, you know, your fiance Amelia about this. And then we see Mirandel speak and says, I don't care if you got a woman, I'll be your second wife. I'm like, what? Mirandel, what the heck? I know you're fooling him, this is all you know, you're BSing your way to stay alive and buy Kon time, but really? You're going to play that little BS story about being a second wife to buy them time? I don't think she was joking. I really don't. Moving on to a different scene now, we do see Kon. He gets kind of Leon talking, so Kon tricks Leon into telling him stuff about the other subordinates, about their weaknesses, I guess. I was like, Kon, I'll give you props. I didn't think you were going to be this bright. At the same time, Icarlet says, Leon's an idiot. So she sees Leon's weak side for what it is. And in the brush off, and by brush off I mean like off to the side, she's talking to Sanglion and Kon. Icarlet points out, let's just kill him. Like, that's one of the first things you've said that actually makes sense. But Kon pulls her off and says, no, I've got a plan. I'm like, okay, he's got a plan. The kid's got a plan? Let's hear it. Now we are taken to a different scene. Now we're taken back to Dukakis in general, and he finds out that Leon's been found, he's been tied to a tree, and he has a note attached to him, and it's from Kon saying they want to settle stuff in general. Now after we're done hearing about this note and how Kon wants, you know, to settle things, we find out in 5 hours he wants to meet Dukakis at the castle/ruins that they originally were at to settle things, and it's going to be on the top of the cliff. And the end result being Mirandel is now set free by Dukakis because, you know, he's a gentleman, and a really stupid one at that. That's all I can say. Now we are taken to a different scene. Now obviously we do see Mirandel catching up with Kon, and now they're setting up the welcome party. So definitely worth seeing. moving on past that, we finally see Dukakis, and I thought this was kind of interesting. He's got his chariot slash tank as well as all of his soldiers and his subordinates right at the front gates of this castle slash ruin, and they're ready to go ahead and take out Kon. Now, this was a stupid moment for him in general. He sees all these little white arrows on the ground, and he follows them knowing it's a trap. Moron. One more time. Moron. Why would you follow something so freaking obvious? It makes no sense. But anyway, sorry, I digress. Moving on. He follows the white arrows to a room, and Leon is the first one to actually test out this trap, and he hurts his leg because he was turned on by, I guess, the machine in general. It was just a funny scene, but he falls for it, and he's a moron. Now, the next trap we actually see is an erotic novel or magazine that's in the middle of, like, the floor. Now, we see Gustav. He actually, attempts to move it, and he knows it's going to be a trap, so he backs away, but we see a boxing glove on a spring pop out of nowhere, and it misses him. He steps back, and then a pan appears right above him and hits him on the head. I'm like, really? Did you think it was going to be that easy, Gustav? No, because you're a moron too. Of course, we are taken to a different scene. Now, this is KT's scene. And supposedly, KT was up next. Well, was up next. And there were all these, looks like liquor and bottles set out everywhere. And it looks like KT was about to destroy them or approach them to see what was up. And then we see Gustav pull out the gun, the machine gun, and blow them away. And all the liquor gets blown away. And it's funny because KT was pissed. Now we are taken to finally a better scene in my opinion. The next scene we see Dukakis and of course a couple of his subordinates in the middle of the castle slash ruin where there's like a big X or plus on the ground. Very obvious that it's a trap, and they hear Kon's voice echoing around, and we hear Kon basically say, I'm sorry, I gotta say this, would you like to join me? I want you to join me so I can take over the world. I'm like, what? Kon's playing an evil monologue from a video game. You can tell this is straight out of a video game. I'm like, really? You moron. And apparently he wants them to join his group, and obviously Dukakis sees past this and he says no, as well as his subordinates. Now we do see Sanglion cut one of the traps, and we see all of Dukakis and his men in oil, and it's lube, and they thought it was either oil or acid. It was neither. And of course Gustav doesn't give a doesn't care. He's like, doesn't affect me. And again, we do see Miranda appear, and she cuts another trap, and the whole group drops down to a second level. Now, Dukakis and everyone else now are all in oil, and they're in the second floor now. They fell right through the trap. And who is going to appear right in front of them? That's right, Icarlet and Kon. And again, they point out to Dukakis, we have booby traps all around you, so if you make one move, you'll die. And he calls his bluff. We do see Dukakis saying, screw it. He pulls out his Alma gear and blows away Kon and Icarlet. Now, it either looks like there's a mirror there, so it might have been a reflection that he hit instead of the actual people, or we actually see Kon in general using his Alma energy to save Icarlet. But either way, it looks like Kon is dead. And we do see Dukakis as well as his subordinates walk out with the assumption that Kon is dead. And ironically, yes, we see Alma Flora. F you, Alma Flora, that's all I can say. And we do see Alma Flora, don't know why. She's watching over the castle. Now, moving on, we do see, past the credits, Pet. And we see, I guess, Kon's headset and one of Icarlet's little bracelets. And that's the end of the episode. Final thoughts, is Icarlet and Kon dead? We do not know. And Dukakis, really, are you that stupid? That's all I have for my final thoughts. As per my rating, I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I really wasn't feeling it only because it was all humor, which was okay, but at the same time, we didn't see any fighting, which kind of sucks, and there really was no new info. So I have to give this a 3.5 out of 5. And again, that is it for my walkthrough review of Ixion Saga Dimension Transfer Episode 11. But definitely comment down below, let me know, thumbs up, thumbs down, definitely subscribe, check me out on Twitter, and follow me if you like. But let me know what you thought of this episode, let me know what you think's going to happen in the next episode coming out. But again, guys, I gotta hit the bricks, I gotta go, and before I go, I gotta say it. You can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.